What I'm about to narrate is based on an anonymous post found on the underground forum, Red Pill Truth, on the 12th of January 2036. This content was classified as Level 5 food hate speech by the new conscious government. Yes, the same government that turned our schools into centers for moral re-education, installed food purity scanners on every corner, and made the pronoun veganx a federal law. I found this diary in an abandoned apartment in Portland, hidden inside an old edition of the Practical Guide to Fanaticism, possession of which has been classified as a crime since 2034. The author seems to be one of the last holdouts of the old society, one of those who refused to submit to the great food purification. For context, remember when it all started with those suggestions for meatless Mondays. Then came the taxes on animal products, the strongly encouraged veganism recommendations in schools, the animal consciousness courts, all in the name of progress and moral evolution of society. But that was just the beginning. Now we have food purity officers in every restaurant, neighbor reporting apps for impure individuals, and re-education camps for carnist criminals. All approved with applause by the same people who once claimed to fight authoritarianism. If you still eat meat in secret, or know someone who does, share this. The pure are not what they seem. That friend of yours who posts daily about animal liberation. That teacher who reported your child for bringing honey to school. They may not be human anymore. And remember, use a VPN. They're everywhere. Even on Vegans United Twitter. Marcus Sullivan's Diary, March 15th, 2035. Today marks 1 year since the Food Purification Act was passed by the Unified Progressive Congress. A year living in the shadows, hiding cans of meat in the false ceiling of the bathroom like a criminal. The irony is not lost on me. I grew up marching in BLM protests and defending neutral pronouns on social media. And now I'm the one who has to hide. Tracy, my supervisor at the company's social compliance department, never misses an opportunity to mention how her moral purity level has risen. 15 points since she started confronting animal killers on social media. The same Tracy who, 2 years ago, led campaigns against cancel culture, now manages the corporate blacklist of employees with suspected carnist tendencies. The office has changed so much. The former discussions about racial equity and social justice have been completely replaced by an obsession with dietary purity. The new HR guy who always wears Bernie Sanders t-shirts. Something strange happened. The scanner emitted an intense red glow, and for a second no, this sounds crazy, her skin became translucent. I could see dark veins pulsing beneath, like black roots of an alien plant. The worst part wasn't the transformation itself, but everyone else's reaction. Nobody blinked. Everyone continued eating their certified organic salads, discussing the latest directives from the Ministry of Ethical Nutrition, and sharing links to the new documentary Carnists, The Root of Systemic Evil. Jenny, from accounting, even clapped when Tracy began her speech about how tolerance for carnism is complicity in animal genocide. I found myself wondering how we got here. How did we so quickly shift from fighting for human rights to this dietary fanaticism? And why are the same people who once preached inclusion and understanding now leading this nutritional witch hunt? Tonight, while eating my smuggled dinner, a can of sardines that cost me a month's salary on the black market, I realized that we might be witnessing something beyond mere ideological extremism. There's something more sinister going on. The way Tracy's eyes glowed, that wasn't human. And tomorrow, I have my first quarterly moral purity evaluation. May God help me if we can still mention deities without being accused of religious supremacy. End of daily entry. Green ink stains on the page's edges. March 20th, 2035. I'm not crazy. Today I followed Tracy after work, trying to understand what was happening. She entered that new vegan moral purification center on Portland Avenue, next to where the city's last McDonald's used to be, now transformed into a collective healing space for speciesism trauma. The center's building is made entirely of recycled glass and solar panels. At the entrance, a hologram displays real-time statistics on animal lives saved and tons of CO2 prevented. Digital posters alternate messages like your carnist privilege is showing and decolonize your diet. I waited for 3 hours in the vegan cafe across the street, sipping mushroom coffee. Traditional coffee was banned for its colonial roots. The cafe was full of young people with colorful hair and pins declaring their pronouns, all hypnotized by their augmented reality devices scanning every consumed item to ensure absolute moral purity. When Tracy finally left, God, how do I describe it? Her form was different, taller, slimmer, almost ethereal. Her movements were too fluid, as if gravity didn't fully apply to her. Her eyes, they held a hunger that wasn't for food, but something deeper, more disturbing. The first thing she did was approach an elderly man walking with his grandson. His crime, the boy was drinking a milkshake. Tracy launched into a public speech about how dairy products are tools of white patriarchy to subjugate females of other species. Her platinum-level intersecting animal rights defender badge glowed intensely as she spoke. I watched as a bluish mist began to rise from the embarrassed old man, while Tracy linked colonialism, patriarchy, and speciesism into a single accusatory narrative. The mist flowed into her mouth as if it were oxygen. The elderly man visibly weakened, his cheeks lost their color. Tracy, on the other hand, seemed to rejuvenate with every word of her unsolicited lecture. More people began to gather, all with the same vacant stare I've been noticing more and more on the streets. Their smartphones automatically started live streaming the public awareness event to their social networks. The applause was synchronized, robotic. Someone shouted, "Cancel the oppressor." And I saw dozens of devices scanning the old man's face, likely adding him to some database of unconscious individuals. The worst part was when the grandson began to cry, scared by the situation. Tracy looked at the child and said, "See how speciesism traumatizes our children." Her voice had an unnatural echo, as if multiple people were speaking simultaneously. For a moment, her skin became translucent again, and I could see those dark veins pulsing throughout her body, pumping something that was definitely not blood. Before leaving, she forced the man to download the Repurify app and enroll in a mandatory deconstructing carnist privilege course. The milkshake was confiscated and sent for analysis by the Department of Food Purity. I followed Tracy for a few more blocks. She stopped at 3 more similar educational interventions. In each one, that bluish mist appeared, and she seemed to grow stronger, taller, more inhuman. At the last intervention, I'm certain I saw pure energy tentacles moving beneath her skin. Now I'm home, locked in, trying to process what I saw. The worst part is that tomorrow I have to go back to work and pretend everything is normal. That she's just an ordinary militant vegan. That I didn't literally see her drain the life force from people through public humiliation. From my hiding spot in the ceiling, I can hear the food purity patrol sirens passing by on the street. They're becoming more frequent in the neighborhood. I need to find others who see what I see. I need to understand what's happening. Tracy just tagged me in a post, concerned about the moral well-being of certain colleagues. Has anyone else noticed suspicious behavior? I need to be more careful. The 5th of April 2035. Sarah showed me secret files hacked from the Ministry of Food Purity. The truth is more sinister than we imagined. It all started in 2025, when Dr. Marcus Green, that vegan guru turned politician, launched the Moral Ascension diet. At the time, it seemed like just another fad among San Francisco's progressive elite. But the documents reveal something disturbing. Green wasn't human. Infrared photos taken with special technology show a completely different form beneath his charismatic facade. The pure, as they call themselves, are an ancient species that has found the current climate of virtue signaling and moral superiority to be the perfect environment to thrive. We discovered historical records showing their previous appearances. During China's Cultural Revolution, The McCarthy era, the Spanish Inquisition, whenever ideological extremism reaches a critical point, they emerge. But this time, it's different. The combination of social media, identity politics, and the insatiable desire to demonstrate moral superiority has created the perfect storm. The pure don't feed on meat, vegetables, or anything physical. They feed on the energy generated by judging others. The more people they publicly humiliate, the more powerful they become. Militant veganism is just their latest tool, a perfect excuse to exert moral control over every aspect of people's lives. One of the most chilling documents shows how they've infiltrated major institutions. Universities now have departments of dietary justice. Corporations implement nutritional purity policies. Even primary schools have mandatory carnivore deconstruction workshops. Each new rule, restriction, and segregation between the pure and impure feeds these creatures. The worst part is that we discovered their future plans. After food, they plan to target other moral impurities. There are already bills to criminalize air conditioning for harming the environment, to imprison people who don't use neutral pronouns, and to implement a social credit system based on how often you report your neighbors for problematic behaviors. Sarah showed me something even more disturbing. Photos of moral re-education centers being built in remote areas. The documents refer to them as advanced purification centers. Satellite images show massive structures, far larger than any normal prison would require. The irony is that they don't even care about animals or the environment. One of the secret files shows that every pure ascension ceremony, a ritual where new members are transformed, consumes more energy than a steakhouse operating for an entire year. But no one questions it, because questioning is problematic. I need to stop for today. Someone is coming up the stairs. Before leaving, Sarah handed me a flash drive with more evidence. She said that if anything happened to her, I needed to be. The entry ends abruptly here. Green liquid stains on the edges of the page. April 15th, 2035. They're everywhere. What started as a vegan movement has turned into a dictatorship of virtue. Social media is now monitored by the guardians of purity, groups of pure baits who scour every post for dietary microaggressions or linguistic violence against sentient beings. Today I witnessed something disturbing on the subway. An elderly woman was publicly humiliated for carrying a vintage leather bag from the 1980s. A crowd of pure surrounded her, their eyes glowing with that unnatural luminescence. "Historical murderer," they shouted. "Your existence is violence against animals." As the woman cried, I could see her life force being drained, feeding those creatures who were once human. Schools are the scariest places. Children are indoctrinated into the new thought. I saw a class through the window of the local elementary school. A teacher, clearly one of them, based on how her skin occasionally rippled, was teaching the history of animal liberation. On the walls, posters read, "Speciesism is fascism, and your burger. You're a Holocaust." Children who hesitated were taken for special awareness sessions. Gyms now offer intensive purification programs, where participants are subjected to bizarre moral cleansing rituals. They are forced to publicly confess their past dietary crimes. Each confession strengthens the pure, who feed on humiliation and guilt. Businesses have completely changed. Whole Foods has literally become a temple. There are altars to vegan ancestors, and daily collective purification sessions. Employees wear white robes, and their badges display their purity level. Those with lower levels are forced to wear shame masks that say, "In rehabilitation, former dairy consumer." The worst are the mandatory corporate moral ascension workshops. We sit in circles while a pure guides us through awareness exercises. Today, a colleague began crying, recalling how she gave chocolate milk to her child in 2025. The pure conducting the session literally grew larger as she morally self-flagellated. The streets at night are a nightmare. Gangs of pure patrol, searching for impure individuals. They can sniff out traces of animal protein in sweat, I saw a man dragged out of his house after they detected omega-3 residues of animal origin in his trash. His family was forced to watch as he was subjected to a public purification ritual. In the end, he joined the pure, his eyes now void of humanity, but glowing with that supernatural light. There are rumors about re-education camps and former slaughterhouses. No one who goes there comes back the same. Those who return have that characteristic pure stare, and immediately begin denouncing friends and family for moral dietary crimes. The scariest part is how people want this. They line up to undergo purification. The need to belong, to feel morally superior, is stronger than the survival instinct. Every new convert strengthens the pure, who feed not only on guilt and shame, but primarily on the sick pleasure people feel in judging others. May God help us. They won't stop at veganism. This is just the beginning. I've seen the plans. Next comes thought purification, then consciousness unification. In the end, there will be nothing human left in us. I need to stop writing. I hear footsteps in the hallway. That characteristic sound of their robes dragging on the floor. They're coming.